Hi, this is another video post on bill drafting guidance. This one deals with the bill drafting guidance we get from the California Government Code. Again, there are several sources of guidance in drafting legislation, including bills, resolutions, and constitutional amendments. One of those after the Constitution. Next up in the hierarchy of laws are statutes, which are found in the codes. And so we look to the California Government Code to see what sort of drafting guidance is provided. And there's quite a bit, actually. The first is the enacting clause. Government Code section 9501.5 says that the enacting clause of every law shall be the people of the state of California do and act as follows. So obviously this tells the bill drafter that you have to include an enacting clause in every bill, and a bill cannot be enacted without this clause as specified in the Government Code. Bills that take immediate effect. Government Code section 9600 follows the Constitution in Article 4, providing that statutes calling elections, statutes providing for tax levies, or appropriations for the usual current expenses of the state, i.e. budget bills, and urgency statutes shall go into effect immediately upon their enactment. So what this says is that in certain instances, there is a required plus section at the end of the bill that provides an explanation for why these four types of bills take effect immediately upon enactment. And that, of course, is to notify the readers that this bill is one of those unique circumstances that would not go into effect on January 1 following the bill's enactment. We also have some general construction rules. In section 9603 of the Government Code, it says that the general rules for the construction of statutes are contained in the preliminary provisions of the different codes. So if you were to go to any of the 29 codes, there are either general provisions, they call them, or preliminary provisions, and those should be examined before beginning your work on a bill affecting one of those code sections, because it provides these general statutory construction rules. References are found in Government Code section 9604, which says basically that when the provisions of one statute are carried into a statute under circumstances in which they're to be construed as restatements or continuations rather than as new enactments, then those are to be deemed a reference to the restatement or the continuation. Section 9605 deals with amending sections and basically provides a number of rules on statutory interpretation when drafting amendments to existing code sections, particularly when there are two or more bills that amend the same code section and when those take effect. When two or more bills amend the same code section, you have a conflict between the bills, obviously, but that is what Legislative Council deems it to be, a conflict. And so in order to avoid any sort of chaptering out problems, what you're going to want to do is the author of those bills, or the authors of the bills, plural, is you want to have Leg Council draft double jointing amendments to address the chaptering out problem. So the next Government Code section of interest is section 9606, which says that any statute may be repealed at any time, except when vested rights would be impaired. And so what this says is that if a vested right could be impacted, then the bill drafter has to determine whether or not that vested right would be impaired if such a bill were enacted. Otherwise, any statute can be repealed, just like it can be added, it can be taken back. But again, you have to make a determination whether or not some sort of vested right would be affected. 9607 is a strange one, a revival of statutes. It basically provides some rules to take into account when repealing a statute or dealing with a sunset date clause in a bill. Obviously, a sunset date is a repeal date of when a statute will cease to be in existence. Section 9608 of the Government Code deals with criminal offenses. And this particular provision or section of the Government Code basically says that the bill drafter has to provide an express statement in a bill if there's a proposal to terminate or suspend a criminal offense statute to deal with the issue of impacting any existing indictment or information for an existing criminal offense. Government Code 9609 deals with repealed statutes and perhaps states an obvious point, but nonetheless, 9609 is very short and sweet to the point. It says that a statute amending a section of a repealed statute is void. Obviously, you can't amend a repealed statute. It doesn't exist, and therefore it can't be amended. 9610 of the Government Code deals with the salaries of state workers, and it essentially tells the bill drafter to note that setting a salary for state officials or employees does not actually appropriate money for that purpose. Instead, the appropriation would have to be made in a budget bill or a budget trailer bill or a budget bill junior for any higher salary that is to be paid. Government Code Section 9611 deals with temporary suspensions, and it says that basically the bill drafter needs to take into account when a bill would temporarily suspend or modify an existing statute, when that bill is in effect for a specified period of time, and that the original statute is not repealed by this other bill. So there's a few oddities in the Government Code, but there are a number of provisions that instruct the bill drafter with specified guidance that's found in the California Government Code.